Hello, dear friends. So, I received this message from France from a person who feels as if he had a terrible accident because he had a partner who, although not fixed herself, had a fixed partner. So, dear viewer, please don't be heartbroken. It is more than enough to understand that you are playing with very dangerous stuff, but repent is all you need to do. There is no need to be heartbroken. You should continue living in harmony with your own self. The important is that you are not yourself fixed yet. Having a partner who is fixed or something similar to that is fortunately not the final stamp of the beast. So don't worry. In many prophecies, they describe families which will be broken in two because one will accept the mark and the other will not. So apparently, there is no reason to fear the worst for now. But as you might have heard, even official data openly provides evidence that fixed people are getting AIDS. So let's look into that from the angle of view of the prophecies. So from the data they have published, it says that fixed people are now very often testing positive for AIDS. And what is AIDS at the first place? It is something that they have been spreading and injecting people whomever they can catch in the hospitals. And as far as the medical nature of the virus, well, there is so much central deliberate misinformation about it that some alternative sources even doubt that it even exists. It has been never isolated. Of course, its origin lies in the labs. How is it transmitted? According to official sources, sex, of course, but not according to all alternative medical opinions. And the overall conclusion? I think it's actually not even important what are the exact specifications of whatever they call AIDS. The important is to know that whoever has anything to do with their so-called healthcare system, directly or indirectly by being intimate with people who believe in that system, they are putting themselves at risk, and the demons will be full of surprises. Sometimes they will infect with something, and if one wastes his time trying to find out what it is exactly, it will be too late because they will catch him off guard and infect him with the next thing. We will be bombarded with such a prolific plethora of all kinds of nasty viruses, virants, and whatever they call it during the next decade, that those who invest their attention and time into understanding the medical definitions of these viruses, they will not have time to focus on the main thing, that all this is black magic. Sickness is not normal for humans, and that the demons will pour contagious stuff. By any means, they can get close to you. The hospitals, the food supply, and even spraying from the air. And the only way to stay somewhat away from that contagion is to distance yourself from that entire civilization. There is no other way. Even in the Middle Ages, when the plagues were wiping out towns, the way it would start spreading in a given town, it was, some medieval sources suggest, some people wearing black with hoods on their heads, they would be seen spraying something in the air in the vicinity of the town. And even people who have seen the EndTimes series carefully, I can see that from the messages they are sending, even they still write me often with the question, but how to get away from shedding? Well, the only way, obviously from common sense and the viewpoint of the prophecies, is to distance yourself from the entire civilization, stop being dependent on them for food supply or living conditions. But too many people dismiss this option as being inconvenient, which is true to some extent currently, and that's why they're asking for more practical, from their point of view, a way to get away from shedding, but there is no such way. And if you don't make arrangements now, while you are not confined to your building, for example, due to quarantine or the lack of some sort of certificate, if you don't do it now, later on it will become even more difficult or impossible. So don't waste your time. So the person is asking almost desperately, what healing can be hoped for a person like me? He even hints it could be beyond repair. I don't think it's that tragic yet. If there was such an easy way to just infect everybody, they would have done it long ago without making this pandemic farce. The black magic removal steps are the main thing, and the rest, we have to understand that we are constantly bombarded by their attempts to infect us with disgusting stuff, and sometimes they will manage. It depends also upon the karma of the person. So it's really impossible to say this and this protocol will cure this and that because it's a karmic thing. It's not really a question of the exact sickness. I could recommend a sample protocol with Iboga, for example, which I recommend the first, microdosing with Iboga. If you don't go to work, maybe you can start taking it every third day in the morning. Or if you go to work, then maybe you take it every Saturday morning if you're resting during the weekend, so that on Monday you could go to work without feeling dizzy. But in overall, don't worry if you're taking the black magic removal steps, you're on the right path, and just be happy. And at least the viewers of this channel understand the dangers of believing the mainstream media, but the dangers of some of the alternative media, which subtly herds the people into the open mouth of the Antichrist, are less understood. The alternative trick is to make the people mindlessly, recklessly surrender to evil, which they will later regret, under the pretext be positive and everything will be alright. So here, the alternative headline says, the Prime Minister panics. And I actually started reading the article to see how is he panicking. There is no sign that he is panicking. This is what they call panicking. They think or somehow they imagine that he's secretly sweating, secretly. So what they're doing is they're putting their fantasy suggestion as the main thing, the first meaningful word in the big title, panic. Well, in reality, we don't know if this person is even human. Many of them, they're devoid of such feelings at all. They're just given commands by a computer. They're kind of automated without feelings. Very often, similar articles suggest that this type of cyborgs who are in charge have even some sort of fear because their own sicknesses and stupid things are turning against them and their families. Nothing like that. They will continue. They will not give up because that's how they are programmed. Just be evil until their demise and nothing else. But these articles, they certainly expect them to be human. They expect them to do some reactions like give up just because it's the entire thing is a stupid farce. And the people who are still hesitating whether to join the camps of the losing parasites or not, they will join because, you see, the good is winning. Don't you worry. Enroll in the army of the devil just temporarily, and later on there will be no problem because good is winning. I see too many people falling in this dangerous trap of disbelief. Now, first of all, good is winning anyway by default and always, because that's the nature of this magical world. All good initiatives are nurtured in long term, while the weeds, the evil people and ideas, they organize their own end, self-destruction. That's how they always end, and it happens rather quickly, at least in cosmic perspective. But the way the dangerous alternative people are distorting this concept is that they say, you see, good winning means it will win immediately and the way we want it, without any inconvenience, without any admission test, and the tribulation and the apocalyptic stories such alternative people continue, they will simply not happen because you don't want it. And a large portion of the alternative community believes this, although the prophecies are already happening with such an accuracy that it is kind of weird not to believe them still. So basically, using twisted logic and subtly changing the meaning of the words, they urge the people to be mindless by calling it being relaxed and positive. And thus, step by step, they make the people gradually, very gradually accept bit by bit the mark of the beast. And many people figure it out that the fix is part of this mark, but not many are figuring out that biometry is so as well. The awareness about the nature of biometry is very, very low. People think that they are truthers just because they protest against very minor compared to biometric things like, for example, the mask mandates. So the representatives of the parasites of the devils in human form, they haven't been really hiding their plans. It has been years ago that a quote, when the computers have biometric data about your body, they will know you much better than you do. And then having that data, he continued, the computer can make you take decisions because your body will be practically part of its network. And this is a quote from a so-called scientist from the nation which one is not allowed to talk against. He is in high-level social engineering service. The people who are preparing all these disasters, who are orchestrating them. So since long time, they have been preparing this entire biometric yoke, and led by their spiritual or so-called spiritual gurus, by the religion, the people will put it voluntarily on their necks, and then a few months and or few years will pass, and those who have put it will appear still kind of normal, and the rest who were hesitant will put it as well, and once everybody has on their necks, then only they will fasten the bolts tight so that the animals can no longer escape, and they will have to pull the cart of disgusting virus-breeding lizards in it. And the people are already going en masse for it. For example, even WhatsApp has a new version or a new update, something like that, which requires biometric data. You can't use it unless you subscribe for that. So this is the current situation update. People are going big time for the mark of the beast, gradually, because it is done little by little, one biometric subscription after another, while people deceive themselves that they are on opposition just because they feel against wearing masks, and just because in overall the changes they experience in their lives are not so rapid, because it is done gradually, they are accepting it. First it will be a WhatsApp or some online platform, and then it will be their employer, and then their bank, and each of them will take a bit more biometric data. And only after a couple of years, when they actually fasten the bolt of the yoke and they start pulling the heavy cart, only then these people will understand what is actually going on, and then they will start saying, well, but I didn't know. Exactly as many people initially went for tests and even for fix, and later on when the evidence came out, they realized, oh, this was a very bad idea, but the damage was already done. And in the case of the fix itself, it is probably irreversible. And the only way to avoid the trap is to refuse all of their special offers, with or without any evidence of what are they all about. Just anything which involves any type of certificate or some sort of new internet connection, even if it is some super booper new 5G and 25G. Later on they will be offering even free money and free food for those with a certificate. And those who remain in the city and think that they're truthers because they don't approve mask mandates, very soon they will be in the position of the Chinese who were screaming locked inside their homes, sometimes without food for weeks in a row. Immediately as the lizards get any biodata about you, immediately they install some sort of techno interface to interfere with your thinking using that data as support. Now, which device of your home or your smartphone. What will they use exactly? Will they do it directly through satellite, or just tuning their devilish frequencies in some way to harvest you biometrically? And when exactly you will figure out this is going, after months or after years? These are things which I don't know. But those who will wait for the exact answers before they make up their mind about biometry, they will find out when it is too late. That lizard social engineer, even years ago, he said, once we have your biometric data, we will be taking the decisions for you and forcing them upon you using the interface. You will be part of the network. I accidentally stumbled upon a video where they were showing how in Russia, in rural areas where people for generations have been living off their own wells, now since a couple of years, the drought is so bad that people first of all tried to deepen their wells considerably, which is the first time they do that in mass. And in many cases, even that doesn't help, so they're even abandoning their wells and looking for alternative solutions. For example, one man, he built a very deep reservoir, and every winter he fills it up with snow water. That's the only way to have water throughout the year for his household. And in the previous episodes, I listed so many signs that the prophecies cannot be random guesses. They are way too precise to be that. And still, polls and social surveys clearly show that year after year, the people who believe in such things, as they call them, become less and less. And they are actively working on organizing the Third World War, exactly as it is in the prophecies. UK Army Chief told the soldiers, you should be ready now to fight Russia. And exactly as they describe it, the prevailing anti-Russian sentiment will be the main thing across Western Europe. Well, now they're planting the seeds. Also, a viewer sent a question, probably because in the last video I mentioned the constellation of Orion, and he asked if I don't believe in modern cosmology, and then why do I speak about constellations at all? And how does all that relate to the biblical cosmology? Well, biblical cosmology, I don't know if we can even speak about such thing. There is a mention of other worlds a couple of times maybe in the Bible, but there are no details at all. So where are they? How are they? Are they inhabited? At least in the current version in the Bible, there seems to be no hint. What have the Jesuits changed or deleted during the medieval editions? God knows. But whatever is now left in the Bible, there is the structure of the earthly realm, which most likely is way more correct than the so-called scientific picture. But still, that information about the earth doesn't in any way clarify how is it with the other realms or planes or worlds of existence. At least according to the Bible, I myself believe the description given in the Vedas, and in the said material, the description Paramonov gives, Vyacheslav, they're all in unison with each other. Basically something highly simplified about them. Let's say, imagine we somehow reach what now we call other planets, which in the Bible are, by the way, indirectly implied because they speak about deities of the other heavenly bodies, which the worship of which they advise against. So that's how indirectly they imply that such bodies exist. But let's say we somehow manage to teleport ourselves there with the current bodies. Most likely we will not see the culture which the local species have. We may see barren sands, or nothing, or just gas or fog. maybe some sort of structures which may look rather weird to us, maybe not. And that's only in the planes which are kind of near, where time and space and the other parameters are kind of similar to what we have on the Earth. In the other realms, which, let's say, time and space are quite different, we don't stand any chance at all. So when I used the term the constellation of Orion, I didn't want to imply that I believe in this entire modern so-called scientific cosmology from which the term is taken, the term constellation. But there is no other way to kind of at least attempt to communicate about these things. We don't have any other terms. Actually, the biggest problem in this case and in this question is that the lizards, they have managed to twist the meaning of all important terms to the point that people can't understand each other. Because in the previous videos, in many of them, when I use terms from this modern cosmology, I often specify that although I'm using the term, I don't really subscribe to the belief system, but it is just too long of an explanation. And when I talk about something, there would be maybe 10 or 20 words which will require such additional clarification, and it's not always possible to include them. Otherwise, I will never reach the end of the sentence. And yet, on the other hand, if I don't include them, like this viewer, people start suspecting wrong ideas about what I say and may understand even exactly the opposite of what I'm trying to say. All this is because the lizards deliberately confused the meaning of the things. Like, for example, love, the most beautiful thing, love. God is love. And what is love for some people nowadays? I mean, young girls, they were kissing these refugees when they arrived. Unknown men, unknown young men, these young, beautiful girls were kissing them random as they land because they believed that this is, their political party told them that this is the way to be nice and compassionate and polite and spiritual and kind to everybody. So first the lizards organized so-called religious preachers in the land of those men to lie to them that those women will wait for you, and they actually want them to rape them. Yeah, that's what they told them. I've seen it on the recording. So that's what those men heard before they arrived. Then magically they were given false passports. When they landed, the immigration just opened the doors for them, although it was kind of illegal actually, but anyhow. And then they had these beautiful teen girls giving them wet kisses, almost in the mouth, I saw on the video, upon arrival. And that was a couple of years ago. Now mass rape is on the run, on the rise. It has become commonplace in those lands. I guess who is doing it. And the parties who organized all of that, what happened to them? Well, their rating dropped slightly. But they're still big and influential with many members. Yeah. If people have become that twisted and have allowed the distortion of definitions to bring them to the point that they or their daughters will be raped up and down and almost nothing will be done about it, what can you expect from such a crowd? And like this, step by step, distorting the meaning of one thing after another over the centuries, the lizards, they turned Earth into a farm for breeding damaged humans. And then the lizards say, oh, it's overpopulated, and now we'll organize them to kill each other. And they giggle while they watch how people kill each other without any reason. And the entire thing with the overpopulation of Earth is again a chain of twisted meanings of words. On one side, they're encouraging the people who do not think, exactly the group of people who do not think much when they make babies, to produce more and more for their farm, because that's what they need. They can harvest their energy easier, they can kill them for fun easier, and then they make all arrangements for the people to leave the land where they can live like normal beings. They pack them in the cities, and then they say it's overcrowded, And what is the solution? Oh, forced sterilization, or convincing the people. Insane ideas like, it's natural to fight for resources, so go for war to rob that other country and become rich. So, like that, over the century, one perverted idea bred 10 other perversions. And at the end, the entire society has rotten to such an extent that now we face the phenomena of mass insanity, and the entire system is beyond repair. It's like you have a rotten apple. If it is just one spot, you just cut it off and still you can use the apple. But when the entire thing is rotten, to try to still make some use of it is a waste of time and nothing else. So this entire civilization, together with all its buildings and social institutions, all that will implode probably within this decade or at latest the next. And all those who are in denial or are too attached to the lifestyle of that civilization, they will also perish when it implodes. But here and there will be people who now see through the deceit. They understand that this is not the natural way humans are, with wars, with hatred, with sickness. They will keep calm. They will not be affected when almost all people turn into zombies. They will not be affected when earthquakes and floods wipe out valleys, cities, and entire nations. They will not be affected because they are wise and they understand the transitory nature of this type of creations, and they do not identify that much with their temporary bodies. So they will not be disturbed by the dangers. While those who have not accumulated enough wisdom, and they will panic. Now they will be in denial while everything is more or less okay. But when the sands below their feet start shifting very fast, they will just panic and get confused. And erratically they will do stupid things. And that will make them, unfortunately, easy prey for the demons who will recruit them. And we will not have to wait long to see the next episode of the fiasco. They are already preaching the next step, yet another pandemic. Food shortages and crazy prices are just question of time. This is becoming pretty much clear. So the times of chaos are near, and that means that the end of the parasitic cancer is very near as well.
Да воскреснет podcast часа его, и да бежали прицелом не видишь его, яко исчезает дым, да исчезнет, яко тает воск от лица огня, так да погибнут песни от лица любящих Бога, и знаменующиеся крысы знаменем, и весельем глаголющим. Радуйся, причестнейшего творящий крестик Господень, прогоняя бесов, силой на тебе пропятого Господа нашего Иисуса Христа,